welcome back, and let's welcome our guest, Mr. Michael Annisette. He is the General Secretary of NATUC. And good morning and welcome, sir. Welcome to Tobago.
Yes, sir.
And did you get enough?
Good morning, Tobago, yes. Scarborough. Lovely people of Tobago. Blessings always.
So you had sea bath, you had crab and dumpling.
Oh, I had everything. Everything.
And
I even went up by the silk cotton tree.
Oh, you went to pray away. I watch you. Careful,
they tell me go there if I want to get increase in so I went up.
Very good, very good. All right, good to have you. Good to have you. All right, let's go to it straight. Just give us an overview as to what happened on Sunday. Of course, a massive turnout would you say?
It was massive in the context of Tobago. All right, and we were happy as the National Trade Union Center because if you realize we had workers from every sector participated, even a representative from the disability group and the Student Guild of Cipriani Labour College. They came out in their numbers to lend support to the cause, and I think that was fundamental. That was great because I believe that people are realizing that there's a need for them, not politicians or cabinet, to determine their life and what they want for the future of Trinidad and Tobago.
Very good. All right. What was some of the complaints that people would maybe confront you and ask about? Well, for example, obviously we'll get to the 4% by the CPO. We'll get to that separately. But in Tobago, what are some of the complaints you hear workers complaining about?
Fundamentally, it's a complaint across the board. You know. The question of job security is one of the fundamental issues. All right, because without job security, you don't have anything. The question of having what I want to call an enabling environment, to talk about productivity, to talk about increasing aggregate demand so that the economy can grow. The questions of some political appointees just carrying out the political objective as opposed to looking at the realities that the workers are facing, and the question of creating the kind of industrial relation environment that will augur well for Tobago. Those were some of the complaints, and I know there was a complaint about a particular company. I am trying to remember now. The name will come back, where one of the spokespersons spoke about the CEO threatening the workers that if you should come to the march, we will deal with you. And I think this is the 21st century, and when you have that kind of thought process coming from a CEO, it tells you that we really cannot make progress as a society.
All right, and of course, you can't threaten workers. There's protection for them according to industrial relations and so on. All right, let's go to Fali Augustine, the Chief Secretary, was there, along with Watson Duke, Deputy Chief Secretary and Deputy Chief Secretary. What did that say to you?
No, well, we invited them because we invited you because, Duke was a former president of PSA and also a president of NATUC, and we thought that if we are in Tobago, we must extend the courtesy to him, and we invite the Chief Secretary in his capacity as Chief Secretary to come and break bread with us and to give us some words from his perspective on how he sees things as we move forward as a union and as a federation.
But he sent a message to Trinidad because obviously on Thursday we're going to prepare a budget and we never get what we want given there are so many things to be done. All we get is recurrent expenditure, more or less, to take care of the bills and so on. But when you're in Tobago, you don't spend enough time here to know how we survive. Cost of living is far more higher. Let's come now to the 4% and let's bring the Tobago way of life, should we say, existing in a Trinidad and Tobago circumstance. And I say circumstance because no matter how we beg, no matter how we plea, we pay more for goods and services in Tobago. And so let's bring the Tobago, the working class, into the conversation as how we can accommodate more across the board. The 4% obviously was rejected by you. But just bring Tobago into the perspective and what you're demanding now, given that you've rejected 4%.
Tobago obviously have a peculiar situation, and as you rightly say, because of how the trading dynamics are, the cost of goods and services will be higher in Tobago than in Trinidad, and that is something obviously that we must pay attention to. And when you look at the question of stagnation of wages, it puts what I want to call extreme pressure on, as I say, the working class, but by extension, the people of Tobago to survive in a meaningful way. And therefore, we need to look at Tobago in a different light, because their circumstances are not similar to what exists in Trinidad and Tobago as it relates to the cost of goods and services that is offered. Sometimes you have to leave Tobago to go to Trinidad to get a work paper and all these kinds of things. And I think we are in the 21st century, and we must be able, that is my humble view, to take a look at these kinds of issues and develop the platform, the IT platform that would make it almost seamless. That if I want to even get a driver's permit, right, that I can go online and get it, because that is what the technology is all about, to make life easy. And we in the National Trade Union Center, we have been preaching that over and over. How do we as a people, how do we as a society, you know, make the goods and services more available and more worthy, in the sense that the workers and the press communities, the single parents, the pensioners can afford to live comfortably. Because that has to be a fundamental mantra, a fundamental DNA of any political party, but we are not seeing that, unfortunately.
Very good. So let's go now to Labour rejected 4% offer from the CPO, the Chief Personal Officer, over a 6-year period, from 2014 to 2019, and every day things going up. Speak to that. Of course, your rejection, and of course, we'll go where you go from here. Are you going back to the drawing board or the negotiation table? 4% rejected. Give us a...
All right, listen, and I will give you some fundamentals as to why. And I think that the people in Tobago can relate to it. You make a fundamental point. Market force dictates what happens to prices in Trinidad and Tobago, and we have no control over the prices, as the government say. But there is a conscious decision to depress wages, to have wage stagnation in Trinidad and Tobago, because that is the only reason why you would not have wage increases. And your legal responsibility as an employer, because the government is an employer, to negotiate in good faith with the trade union movements and the respective unions that represent government workers. And I'll give you one example. We in the Port Authority, Siemens Union and the management of the Port Authority sat down and negotiated a 12% wage increase in 2015 for 2014 to 2017. And concomitant with that 12% was our understanding that we're going to have best practices. We're going to work 5 and 7. We're cutting out overtime. We will follow what is followed internationally so that we can come competitive. And we sat down and signed that agreement. We did the analysis. But more importantly, people don't know that the Port Authority have always generated sufficient wages to meet the wage bill, and they never depend on the government for the wage bill. That's a fundamental issue. And to date, notwithstanding all my efforts as president of the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union and General Secretary of NATUC to engage the Minister of Finance and his team in trying to find a resolution to that problem, we are yet to get instructions, which is the management, to implement the 12% wage increase. So that tells you something. We are now hearing through the grapevine that the minister is saying, well, listen, the contract wasn't negotiated legally. They didn't have the permission from the government. That don't concern the trade union movement. We sat down around the table because the law is that the Port Authority is the legitimate employer, not the government. And therefore, if we engage the Port Authority in discussions and we accede, all right, to a wage increase, how come? And more importantly, the port pays the wage increases. They are not dependent on the government. They go to the government for back pay, which we could discuss after. How come the government have been refusing to advise the Port Authority to pay workers the 12% wage increase from 2014 to 2017, which has implications for all the port workers who would have retired, because they have a legitimate expectation that with the increase, their pension is going to evolve, all right, in relation to the wage increase. And we must remember, Tobago, that the port is up for privatization by this government. But more importantly, pensioners in Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago have to live on their pension until they die. There is no indexation or there's no adjustment for their pension like the Prime Minister and others. So that if I leave the port 5 years from now and my pension is 2005, if I live 10 years thereafter, with the increasing cost of living, I still get 2005. And we are saying that in the trade union movement, that is something that you must address, because we must be kind to our pensioners.
All right. Let's go to, you mentioned that your Seamen and Waterfront Trade Union, you were able to negotiate 14%? 12%, sorry.
2014 to 2017 period.
12%. Yeah. With that, all right, and you said the last time we spoke that don't think that you all are not aware of the situation that the government in, given the war in Ukraine, the effect on the economy, and all of that. All right, we're coming now. And I want to get to, we will get to the...
And I don't want that war in Ukraine.
All right.
All right. To deal with a negotiation that is 10, 12 years and 9 years ago, because we didn't have war in Ukraine 9 years ago.
Okay, fine.
10 years ago.
So the excuse is unacceptable.
Yeah, that is
all right,
totally
so let's bring, and you said that you are aware of the situation the government is. Let's bring that into perspective, and let's bring what you're going to do, and I want you to tell me whether you're going to the chief personal officer with a reasonable ask. 12%, tell us what are you, if, let's see, all right. So you're going to have a further conversation with the CPO, tell me, and if that is the case, what are you requesting? Is it 12%, 14%? Tell us.
All right, let me make some distinctions. The CPO is only responsible for negotiations in law with the government daily rated workers, the police, public servants and all these. We, from the port, because we have what you call a collective agreement and we are recognized in law, all right, as the recognized majority union, the Port Authority has to negotiate with us, like in WASA, which they haven't started negotiations yet, like in MTS, which they haven't started negotiations with, like in MTS, which they haven't started, and like the Port of Scarborough, which they haven't started negotiations. So there are still some, what we call it statutory bodies, who haven't yet started negotiations, and they are waiting, all right, to get instructions from the government to start these negotiations. So I want to make that distinction. So the CPO is negotiating with a group of people that falls under his remit as the de jure employer. So we have to make that distinction. And I am part of the negotiating team on behalf of NATUC as an advisor to the three unions who meet with the CPO, which is the daily rated workers, the contractors in South, NUGFW in Port of Spain, and amalgamated workers in Port of Spain. So that we are open to negotiations. We haven't shut the door. But what we are saying is that one has to take into consideration the realities of what is going on and how it affects people in Trinidad and Tobago. And we have a great concern that first you offer, right, 2% over an 8-year period, and then you went in the public domain and said that was just an offer. I mean, let's get serious.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get, because we
don't play games with the workers.
Because we have been waiting for more than 10 years, and in some instances going back to 2007 for you to start the negotiations. You determined that you didn't want to start the negotiations, and you come around the table and tell me you offered me 0, 0, 0, 0. Come on, you are insulting workers' intelligence, and what you are doing, you are raising the rebellious innate spirit in workers when you behave in that kind of way. And then we want to say too that negotiations is not for the Prime Minister to go on a political platform or when he talking to his constituency and say what he going to offer. That is not negotiation. That's an insult to us. Because the same way when the UNC asked the Minister of Finance about the wage increases. He says he's not going to negotiate in Parliament, which is the highest forum.
Yeah.
So that we are looking, and what are some of the facts? There is a fact that there is stagnation in living standards. Because over this period of time, people do not understand what the cost price index, which you don't look at, would have raised to in Trinidad and more so in Tobago, given your unique circumstances. And if you are offering wages, the question of the aggregate demand, which is critical in any economy, and the question of the functional distribution of income must be part of the equation. And we are saying in the National Trade Union Center that the question of job-led growth and wage-led growth is the new model that the government has to use in order for this economy to grow.
Very good. Okay. I'm glad that you made that suggestion. But let's go now to the labor movement has moved a resolution of no confidence in the PNM government. And of course, you are taking this
led administration.
To the president and to other agencies. Talk to us about why, no confidence resolution. Tell us how you came to that and all
having said all what I would have said.
Clearly.
All right, the question of not having confidence in the government is not anything that anybody could dispute. Because what is a government? A government is for the people, by the people. And when you isolate yourself from the people and the working class, and more so your employees as a government, because you have a responsibility to treat them in a particular kind of way. Having said that, is Tobago aware? And I want to talk to Tobago. All right, is Tobago aware that within the private sector, over the said periods, we were negotiating wage increase in Trinidad and Tobago with the private sector, and we was getting at an average of 9, 10, sometimes 12 and 15% increase as I speak to you.
Okay.
So then, are we living in a different world? How come the private sector can find the money to pay the workers because they reckon, but the government is now saying, boy, you have to look at the Ukraine crisis, the price of oil, and all these kinds. And then if I pay you, I want to send people home as a prime minister, and we warn him about that. You don't speak to people as a leader, right, that elected you to represent them in that kind of arrogant way and insensitive way. That wouldn't hold good in the 21st century. And people are upset about it because they are not listening. They are not feeling the pains. And what we recognize, that the financiers of the party, we make no apologies for that. The business elites who are their friends and the political elites, they benefit immensely. But we the workers, who are the producers of the wealth, who are the producers of the economy, who are the consumers of the goods and services that keeps the economy going, you want to depress our wages.
All right. So, Ansel Roger said that they are going to CC this letter or the motion or the no confidence motion or the move to beside the president. Tell us where and where.
No, we are asking all workers, all shop branch officers, leaders of the trade union movement to gather in the savannah opposite the president's house so that they will witness a historical day when we present the no confidence motion to the president. When that is completed, it is our intention to go to the parliament and deliver the very said motions to the opposition, the prime minister, the ministers, and everybody, so that they will be quite aware of how we feel as workers about the treatment that is being meted out to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and more so our pensioners, more so our people in the depressed communities, more so our youths, more so our single parents, like those workers in MTS, who are majority of them who are single parents, and they have
minimum,
they have to work from payday to payday, and the police and other people have to do 2 jobs in order for end to meet.
All right, I'm getting the wind up. We're getting close to winding up, and I want to ask you though, I'm still not getting what you are going to the CPOO. Whichever negotiation table is available.
Yeah.
Because the CPO has done his part, his hands are tied. What is the next approach, Mr. Root, Mr. Ansil? And going forward,
whether we are prepared, and I don't want to negotiate on the TV set because I said that the Prime Minister was wrong in doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to contradict myself.
Okay.
But what I am saying, that we are saying that you must look at the economic reality, because when you stagnate, people's ability to buy goods, when you take away and what we call household deficits and debts and debts that we are seeing, right, as we do the research, because we are doing a lot of research, you are creating a society with social implications and fallout, the lives that we wouldn't want to see. And we are seeing it in the reflection of the drug trade and the shooting and all the murder. That didn't happen by accident. And therefore, we believe that there is a responsibility for the government to ensure that people are paid wages properly.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
And if you fail to do that, well, then this is the result of
very good. All right. So, and we look forward to that and the outcome. However, there have always been this question of what the union is doing for workers. They pay their dues every month or every year. I don't know how they work out, how they pay. But what is there? I mean, any cooperative set up to accommodate the better living standards? Are there applications for homes for those who are in need? What is the union doing in that regard? Positively, let's hear some positive.
Right. As you speak to me,
yes,
we are waiting on the confirmation from the cooperative division of the ministry so that NATUC can set up a cooperative.
Great.
As you are aware, there is a body, a construction company between Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union and NUGFW, the majority shareholder, where we would have produced more than 500 homes, all right, to our workers.
Excellent.
All right, and then we are looking at what you want to call a card, a workers card, a discount card for our members. We are looking at health issues in terms of how we can privately get ourselves engaged. And as I speak to you, we are in discussions with a particular provider to try and make that a reality, so that we are not only talking the talk.
Exactly,
we
you're walking the talk.
We are
all right,
walking
very
the
good,
walk.
very good. All right, Mr. Annisette, it was a pleasure having you, and of course, so much came out. And we'll talk again. You're always available to be here on Rise and Shine, and we are indeed thankful.
Well, I hear until tomorrow. So if you want me tomorrow for half an hour,
you're available.
But available because we need more time.
Excellent.
To
but
engage
hear
in these
what I advise you. You
discussions.
said you went by the silk cotton tree.
Yes.
So you had to go now to take your sea bath. And then when you come back after that, everything's straightened.
All right. Well, I do that already.
Yeah.
I know what to do. I meet somebody from Tobago and they show me what to do. So I ain't worried.
All right, again, thank you for being here.
Right.
And always a pleasure. All right.
Pleasure and blessings. Tobago, stay strong and always, as I say, pray to your divine master and go back to your ancestral mothers and fathers, even though if it's by the silk cotton tree, and give thanks and pray and ask them for the guidance, because that is important.
All right, so we want to thank you again, and at this point in time we go for a break. When we come back, our